Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're all having a fantastic week. I know I really don't talk about politics much at all on this channel. It's not something that I'm super passionate about. But of course, as everyone knows, this week we have the presidential election for the US president. And I think we have a winner. It looks like Joe Biden is going to be the next president of the United States. Whether you guys stand on the right or the left, on the blue or the red, for me personally, I don't have a horse in this race. I think neither candidate is an ideal one for America, to be honest. They all have a lot of shortcomings and a lot of missing attributes of what I think a president should have. A lot of Trump supporters are now coming out and saying, hey, it wasn't fair. There was a lot of issues with the counting process. There's a lot of fraud and whatnot. It's really hard to know who to believe in this case. There's a lot of missing information. There's a lot of gaps. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about my observations and my experience with this whole election process this past week and some of the key insights that I've observed. So here we go. First of all, the system that we have currently with the electoral votes, I don't know if it's the best option, right? I honestly think that for a lot of these states, for example, here in California, it's a blue state. I think the last tally was 8 million for Biden and 4 million for Trump, give or take, right? Now, in a situation like that, whoever wins the popular vote in the state of California gets all of the 55 electoral votes. So that's number one, right? In certain states, it just really doesn't matter who you vote for. The other thing that I want to point out is the number of electoral votes don't necessarily correlate with the population in a particular state. Every state's different. Every state has a certain number of allocated electoral votes. And I don't think they do some sort of a refresh every year or every 4 years to determine whether the actual population is represented by an equal number of electoral votes. So that process also seems to be very outdated and unfair. I just don't think it works very well. There's an argument to be had that the popular vote winner should be the next president. Now that's a whole nother topic that we can talk about for a whole nother video, but I just wanted to point that out. There's an opportunity here to improve the process so that the voice of the people, the true voice of the people, and the majority of the folks can have their voices heard. The other thing that I want to just quickly point out is even the candidates themselves. The people don't really get to vote for who actually gets to run for office, who gets to represent whichever political party. Right now, the way it works is that the people will nominate a delegate, and the delegate is the one who votes for the party nomination, right? And that obviously has a lot of room for error. Delegates can also, vote for someone that the people don't want. In this case, I think, before Joe Biden was nominated, there were several other candidates that I think had a really good chance to run. Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, as an example. So I think there's a chance here for the people to let their voices be heard and let their voices represent the voice of the political party. I also think that the political parties themselves, right now we have a two-party system. Now, of course, you've got the independents, you've got the moderates, but really there's just so little of them that there's such a small minority. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. We've got the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And if you don't fall into one or the other, it seems like your voice really doesn't matter at all. I mean, even if you look at the number of votes that candidates got who are not named Biden or Trump, it's literally less than 1 or 2%. So really, it's just a sideshow. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I think the two-party system is a little bit outdated, and I think we need to overhaul that as well. Now, the other thing I want to mention is I think that our entire election process needs a complete rehauling. There are just too many errors. First of all, I think the way that people vote, it's not a centralized process. Every state does it a little bit differently. The timing of when the votes come in and when they're counted is all over the place, right? I mean, perfect example, if you look at this past week, it took us nearly 4 days to get the majority of the votes in for all of the states, whereas a lot of the states had already finalized their counts on day 1 or day 2. And so we didn't really find out who was the winner until about Saturday. So I think there's an opportunity here also to centralize the process and make sure that every state does it somewhat similarly so that we could get the results on time and not keep people in the dark like this for 4 or 5 days. It became a total circus, right? I also think there needs to be a lot more transparency. Now, if you look at the the far right, right? They're making claims that there was a conspiracy, that there was a lot of voter fraud, especially with the mail-in ballots. And so because you have so many different sources of where the votes are coming from, it gets super confusing and it's very difficult to track and know exactly what's going on. There also doesn't seem to be any oversight over the counting process because it's all done by hand or by machine. And even when it's done by machine, people have to physically feed the polling machines to get the votes counted. It seems like there's just a lot of room here for error. And I think this is where technology companies and entrepreneurs can come in here and really disrupt the process so that it becomes a much more accurate, much more transparent, and much more reliable. I don't know if there's ways that we can leverage, let's say, blockchain technology or letting people vote through mobile devices where they get some sort of a one-time use code or token that allows them to vote from the comfort of their homes, so you don't have to put people at risk for the coronavirus. I mean, there's just so many different ways that we could look at this. I feel like a few really smart people, I'm looking at you, Bezos, Tim Cook, Sundar, a lot of you tech guys, I'm sure you guys can really come up with a solution if you really consider this problem and really explored all the different options that we have. So that's another item. And then finally, I think the last thing that really just came to my mind is something that reminded me is that really, everyone's accountable for their actions. It doesn't matter if you're the lowest guy on the totem pole or if you're the president of the United States. We live in a society now where every soundbite, every word you say can be captured and stored forever. And Trump didn't really help himself with all of his crazy tweets and all the things that he said leading up to the election. And I think a lot of this sort of backfired on him. Ultimately, I think people just got sick and tired of the incumbent and wanted something new. I was reading a statistic somewhere that most people were not voting for Biden, but they were just voting against Trump. And so the vote for Biden was really the lesser of two evils, right? And it should really never come to that. In America, we should be excited about the process. We should be excited about who we elect to serve the people for the next 4 years. And if this 2020 election is any example, it just goes to show that people are just fed up. The way that we handled COVID, the way that we're handling, racial injustice and inequality and all these other issues. And no one really came up with tangible solutions or really showed leadership attributes to address a lot of these problems. I think people just defaulted to, let's get the guy out of here. Let's hope that this new guy can come in and make some changes. And it shouldn't come to that. We need to make politics much more attractive for real leaders. And hopefully in 2024, we can get real leaders to really step up and give it a shot and give people something to be excited about. So those are kind of my thoughts, my overall reactions and thoughts regarding the election. So what do we do from here on out? At the end of the day, this really doesn't change my life and it really shouldn't change yours. Whoever's in office, they can make certain policies, they can vote for certain laws and certain executive orders to go through. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for your life, right? We need to all take ownership of our own destiny and our future and shouldn't let the decisions of some individual control or dictate how we live, whether we're successful or not. That should not matter. I'm optimistic about the future, even though sometimes it can be really hard to think like that. But let's give Biden a shot. Let's support him. He's our president now, so hopefully this whole transition of power gets smoothed out and we'll see how things go. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What did you guys think about the election? Are you guys excited about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as our new president and vice president? Let me know in the comments down below and we'll catch you guys in the next video.